You have a really good story, and I love you because you're so just honest about things and just unapologetically you. So I mean, you went from 320 pounds to what do you weigh right now?
I'm actually at the lowest I've ever been. So I'm like 178, 177.
Wow. So can you tell me about your journey? Because I mean, if people check you out, the Iron Giantess on Instagram and social, you really just you take people through this journey, and it's nice that you kind of go back through it every now and then because it's almost if you're just to look at you like, wow, she's just this amazing figure of a person and this persona, and you have this realness about you, which is wonderful. And I love seeing because I hate social media with a passion. You've probably seen, but I do think that it can connect people, and you have an amazing way of connecting people with people. So just through like a 30-second reel, you're like, wow, this is great. I just saw her whole journey, but let, let's take it back. Let's rewind the tape. And you said you started as in one of your posts, like this is not my words. You started as kind of like chubby, and then went to like overweight, and then like grossly overweight. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I started as a kid, I was kind of chubby and I loved food, which looking back, everybody was confused as to how that happened. But I grew up in a foodie family where food was the way that we socialized, communicated, showed love. It was my dad is like the type of guy where when you travel, he doesn't plan activities, he plans reservations. And so I grew up in a house where food mattered a lot. And I also grew up in a house with very health minded parents. So my dad is a
Mm.
doctor. My mom is super healthy, health minded. She runs a farm. She's busy. She's a lawyer too. I won't bury her lead, but she's a farmer. And
Wow.
I just was always like the chubby kid and I loved sports and I just so badly wanted to play all of the sports, be one of the guys. I wanted to play football. I wanted to play and I just kept getting sidelined. It was like not only was I a little chubby, but I was also a girl and I was always getting put on the sidelines of sports and things like that. I was, playing soccer. I was an equestrian. I rode competitively my entire childhood. But I just kept putting on weight and my weight kind of climbed over the years. I did everything. I did like fat camp. I had personal trainers. I did
Mm.
Jenny Craig. I did Weight Watchers. I did everything possible, but nothing really stuck. And my weight just continued to climb. And I went to college. And what I didn't know when I was younger, and looking back, like obviously I know it now because I've had conversations with my parents, but I was very much a closeted eater. So my mom would
Mm.
find snack wrappers in the couch cushions, and my side table was full of wrappers that I had eaten, and I just wouldn't tell anybody. And I'd sneak into the fridge, I'd eat all the leftovers. I loved food. And I was also 6 feet tall by the time I was 13. So my appetite was insane. And there was a lot of
Yeah.
shame around why, as a child, eating this much food, but it's also like, why is a 6 foot human eating that? There wasn't a conversation around that. And so as I went to college, food became kind of a shameful space for me. And I was alone. So nobody saw what I was eating. So I developed an issue with binge eating throughout
Mm.
college. And my weight just continued to climb and climb and climb until I was around 320, over 320 pounds. 320 pounds was make or break, step on the scale, time to make a change. But there was definitely more than that going on.
Right.
But yeah, it was just an, you know, a big pile-on of years of not really understanding how to cope emotionally with some of the things that I was feeling and going through in isolation. I was a Canadian kid growing up in the South. I was a brown kid growing up in blonde, blue-eyed Tennessee. I had a lot of things that made me feel isolated and separated. And then food was my comfort, but it was also a secret shame. And what I've learned over the years is that shining that light on that shame has allowed me not only to work through it, but to connect with so many people who truly don't realize how many other people have the exact same feelings as them. And as a coach, that has been a game changer for me because my vulnerability, my willingness to be open has allowed every single person that I've worked with to be able to say, oh, you have the exact same experience I thought I was alone in. And we can have these conversations out loud.
Yeah, and that speaks volumes that Yeah, you were talking about your shame with food and being a closeted eater, but you were also extremely athletic growing up. And then you just said that you came from a health conscious family, and I think there's a general stereotype with people, and especially overweight females, like, oh, she must not be working out or active, and like doing this to themselves. So you were active, and you were eating kind of like binge eating at night, or
So
what really was the
this is
trigger
an
there?
important this is an important conversation too, because I don't like to. I think a lot of times we kind of try to take a get out of jail free card, where it's like, oh,
Mm.
well, I was active and sorry, I lost my AirPods in the middle of this. I was active and I was healthy and blah blah blah, but that really covers a huge part of the conversation, which is that even though I was active and even though I played sports, I was the kid who went to practice and then hid in the shed literally to get out of cardio, to not have to run laps. Or I was the kid who knew how to eat healthy but chose not to a lot of the time. Secretly, my food choices in public and my food choices in private were two very different things.
Hmm. So when in public you were choosing what is deemed as, and I kind of want to get into that, as healthy, right? But then in private, what was your go-to as a kid? Do you remember, like, what was that? I remember that finally doing a breakthrough with a client that was 100 something pounds overweight, and celebrity chef Art Smith, and he was this gay kid growing up in the South, and he would get bullied all of the time, and he
The South,
realized
what
that,
are they doing to
yeah,
us?
like, yeah, right. So he realized that if he started baking cookies for his bullies, they would stop bullying him. So anytime that he would have sweets, he would associate that with the comfort of not getting bullied, right? So he was able to really figure that out, and it's amazing that just once he had that breakthrough, he was able to. I feel like you kind of always go back to that, like smells or sounds or anything. That was his kind of go-to food. Is there anything that you felt comfort in?
So there's a couple of things. My mom is a huge sweets fanatic, but she's really good about, like, she loves Twizzlers, and I grew up in a house where she hid the Twizzlers under her car seat, even though it was an obvious secret. We all knew where the Twizzlers were, but she had this weird thing where she would hide Twizzlers around the house. And she's a skinny little blonde, like it never needed to be hidden, but she always hid the Twizzlers. And the kids we did not like them. So I don't know why the hiding happened, but she would always hide Twizzlers. And then I loved sweets so much. I grew up in two different households. So my mom is Ukrainian, and her mom was one of the first and leading diabetes nurses in the country. So she was always giving us
Wow.
like angel food cupcakes instead of real cupcakes, and Ukrainian food, but the healthy way. And then my dad's side of the family is East Indian, and my Nana was a food tyrant. She wanted you to eat everything. She wanted you to try everything. So I was going between these two households of
Yeah.
totally different ethnicities, totally different foods. Um, and looking back, my go-tos are still like, if I were going to relapse and fall into a binge, my go-tos would
Right.
be walking through the grocery store and being allowed to put whatever I want in my cart. And I think that was a big deal, was feeling
Mm.
like I couldn't have a lot of foods, even though it wasn't said, and even though nobody was saying you can't have those, because of the household that I grew up in, and there was no shame or anything around food. It was just like, let's make healthy choices, became there's a lot of foods we're not bringing into the house. So when I would go through
Yeah.
the grocery store with my grocery cart in college, it was like the sweet section, like two pies, two cakes. I'm getting all the ice cream. I'm getting all of, those little donuts that are in the cupboards that are old and they're gross and nobody gets them. And they walk by. I'm getting like 19 of those. Sweets is the answer. Sweets.
Okay. Yeah, I have a huge sweet tooth. I mean, I always call myself like this inner fat kid because I just wanted just I like donuts and everything fried, and I literally didn't have a vegetable until I was 25 years old. And
What was
the
your
way my
what
mom
broke it?
I don't. Well, I went to as a fashion model for a while, and then I wanted to compete in a fitness competition, right? What they call fitness modeling, whatever. But I'm 6'3", so most of those fitness models or muscle models are like shorter, right? So
Right.
me, I'm like, let me give it a shot. And my coach was former Mr. Australia 2001. He's like, mate, you want to compete, you got to eat some greens. And I'm like, I probably just murdered his accent, but I'm just like, Marcus, dude, I can't. And so then I would take a handful of spinach and an apple, spinach, apple. I just keep going because I needed something sweet to cut through that. And it wasn't until I started eating those greens that my body started feeling better and shaping up more. And then that's when I really figured, like, wow, nutrition has something to do with this. Because in college I played hockey and I lived off of KFC, the family-sized popcorn chicken, mashed potatoes, and brownie earthquake from Dairy Queen. I would have that a couple times a day. Yeah.
Oh, well done. I didn't know you played hockey.
Yeah, that was yeah. If you see my butt, you would figure that out. That's a big hockey butt. So that's my go-to sweets. So there you go. We have something in common.